Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Dr. Amanda Shee. I'm an anesthesiologist and intensivist, and today I want to go over the residency match. After matching, now what? So I'm often asked after fourth year students match into various specialties what advice I have for them to prepare for internship or for specifically anesthesia residency. I get this question all the time: what is the best textbook to be reading? What is the best resource to be using in order to be really successful as an intern? Now, I want to back up and first of all, just go over the fact that match day was one of the highlights. It was one of the most happiest days of my life. I personally did not expect to match at my top choice program, which is Mass General, and my top choice internship, which was Henry Ford. And so it was a really momentous time in my life. And I think that it's really important for those of you who are happy with where you've matched at, or even if you're not happy with where you matched at, to sit down and recognize that to get to this point, you have had to commit and work very hard to be able to achieve this match result. So the first most important thing, it doesn't matter if you didn't get your first choice, it doesn't matter if you needed to go through the SOAP process. The most important thing to recognize is that you did it, that you have gone through this arduous training process of medical school and successfully matched into a program that will be essentially the last big step before becoming an attending and really starting your career and the rest of your life. So I just want to make sure that all of you guys take that time to reflect and recognize what a huge achievement it is, this whole matching and becoming a doctor. So for those of you that came to this video to look for advice on what to do now as a matched fourth year student, first and foremost, let's just get out of the way that you still have to actually graduate from medical school. So don't slack off on finishing whatever it is that you need to do, rotations, things like that, in order to graduate. Because in order to become an intern and actually go to your program, you have to finish medical school. So let's just get that out of the way. The couple of things that I want to go over in this video, though, kind of relate to the fact that there really isn't much that you can do in terms of preparation to be an excellent intern. But I still have advice on what you should be doing now as a matched fourth year medical student. So first and foremost, I kind of alluded to this earlier, but it is so important to enjoy this moment. I get it. Some of you may be disappointed on where you're going or anxious about having to move to a different place or anxious about having to start in a new place or have to get to know a community or get to figure out how to succeed in your specialty, etc., etc., etc. There's a lot of emotions that come with match day and with finding out where you're going to be for the next few years. But again, I really want to emphasize that it has taken you so much hard work, commitment, and delayed gratification to get to this point now. So stop for a moment, stop all those racing thoughts, because I totally had all of those too, and just appreciate that you have made it. And I also think a lot of people at this stage try to stay humble and try to be like, oh, it's, like I'm really happy about it, but it's no big deal. I disagree with that completely. I think you need to accept the praise and accept the congratulatory messages and really bask in this moment of matching and knowing where you're going and being excited about the next step in your medical training. My first piece of advice is to enjoy this milestone to the fullest. Now, my second piece of advice is more practical. So you come to me for the most part for practical advice and my opinion and maybe my great personality. But I do want to say that you cannot put your life on hold. I mean, you kind of had to in order to match and do all this, but now that you know where you're going, it's time to get that administrative and life stuff planned out. So after matching, generally, most of you guys will start to get a lot of paperwork from your hospitals. You'll start to have to think about medical licensing. You usually get a temporary license at your state, and figuring out how your rotations are going to go, et cetera, et cetera. It is so important, if you are planning some sort of big life event, to start that communication with your residency program about it so you can plan appropriately. It is always a stressful thing for programs and for residents to have to find out last minute that there needs to be changes, or that something that you have been looking forward to or planning for a long time isn't possible the way that you had envisioned it. So it is really important to have that back and forth conversation. If you're planning on getting married, if you're planning on having kids, especially as anesthesia residents, if you're planning on having kids, that actually has an impact on the types of ORs and cases you can be in, because we like to avoid having our residents be in rooms with radiation or certain kinds of cementing in ortho cases if there's consideration about pregnancy. So these are all really important things to consider. And it's not like you're going to put your entire life on hold by being a resident, but you do have to manage your own expectations about being a resident, because not every single thing in your life will work out the way that you expect it to, with the needs of a residency program and the needs of your training. So it's not always just like, oh, your residency program needs you in order to work. There's also considerations for your actual training and the requirements that are in place in order for you to graduate based on your specialty boards or ACGME requirements. So it's a lot of factors that go into making sure that you can do these life things. And the first step in making sure that you can get the things that you need done is to communicate with your program. So it's so important to do those things. Get your paperwork done. Don't ignore that. Obviously, I said earlier, you actually have to finish medical school, so do that too. Get the stuff that you need to do done for that. And then the other thing that I want you guys to consider too is when you're going to schedule your step 3, because that's another thing you want to communicate with your program. Certain programs have certain requirements on when you have to get it done. Other programs do not. Some programs will cover the cost of step 3. Other programs will expect you to take it later. I know some surgical programs actually expect their residents to take it later because surgical internship tends to be a bad time to schedule it. So definitely find out kind of the process for step 3. I personally took my step 3 in like November of my internship because it was close to medical school. It was during an elective rotation and I was able to get the time off for it. And my program actually paid for step 3 to be taken. So some people opt to try to take step 3 before they even start residency. But if your program is going to pay or reimburse it, if you do it during your program, it makes sense to save the like $1,000+ and actually just get it done during residency. So that's another consideration in terms of planning that I think is really important at this time before starting internship. The third piece of advice I have for you guys is to cherish this time off. It is true that once you have kind of gone into this transition between medical school and residency, this is kind of like the only time for many of you guys in your 20s that you're going to have real time off. So I really recommend taking that big trip that you can, obviously within safety parameters, right? So COVID has totally derailed many of our lives and our plans for travel and our ability to see people. But in the upcoming months, it is really important, if it is safe from a COVID perspective or other things, to cherish the time off. That doesn't always mean you have to go on some big trip. It can mean that you're actually just seeing family members in a safe space, or being able to catch up with people, or being able to catch up with your friends. And those are the considerations that I think are really important, that you have to use this time wisely, because the next time that you will truly have time off, I would argue, is between your residency and starting as an attending. And in that situation, a lot of people will not have any paycheck or any kind of source of income, and so that becomes a kind of challenging thing. And at that point in life, some people are just in a different stage in their life. And so it is important, I think, between each transition period in becoming a doctor, to actually take the time you need to be a human, to really nurture those relationships that are going to carry you through some of the most stressful times in your life, which is residency. truly residency was the time when I encountered some of the scariest things, when I felt the most adrenaline rush in my life. And as a result, I think that I recommend that you, as someone who is about to embark on that journey, try to get as much kind of relaxing, less stressful, de-stressful type things out of the way now. And finally, the fourth piece of advice I have for you guys is about the whole studying thing. Now, I really wanted to delve into this and say that no textbook is going to teach you how to be a good intern. There are practical things that you have probably picked up during your rotations. There are pieces of advice and pearls that you can ask the residents that you work with in the coming months during your last few rotations, if you have some left. And those things I think are really important to ask and be mindful of and to consider. But the reality is, no textbook is going to tell you how to be a great intern. A lot of internship is really those soft skills that come into play. So the first few months of being an intern and successfully transitioning is to recognize that you have to be open to feedback. You have to learn excellent communication. Communicate. You have to, and that's with everyone on the team, your nurses, your support staff, your PCAs, the pharmacists if you're working closely with them, your senior residents, the attendings, etc. Communicate. And then the other part too is asking questions. We as staff and as senior residents and fellows, we recognize that you're an intern. We recognize that you are going to need some additional guidance and help. So now is the time to ask questions. There are no stupid questions out there. I remember my first call as an intern. It was a 36-hour call. And I was so worried because this was the first time I, under my license, was putting an order in for Tylenol. I totally thought that the 650 milligrams of Tylenol was going to cause some adverse event for this patient, that I'm going to send them into liver failure, or that I'm totally going to have missed some really important side effect of Tylenol. And guess what? Nothing happened. It was fine. The patient got Tylenol and all was well. So the big picture is what I'm trying to get at is that just ask for help. It's okay to be concerned about these things, and it's okay to ask for help when you have these questions. In fact, I suggest that you do it. So all that clinical knowledge that will come with experience and time will come with experience and time. It does not come out of a textbook that you are going to think that you could frantically read between finishing medical school and starting internship. No. You will also have an orientation when you start as an intern. There are support systems in place to help you make the transition. So really, I do not suggest you pick up a textbook during the time that you're preparing for internship. Just get your paperwork out of the way, get your life ordered and organized, and you can focus on the textbooks and the clinical knowledge and everything that you need to know when you are about to start. So that means during orientation, or even in the days leading up to orientation. If that's the time you want to brush up on certain things, feel free. But in the months leading up to it, don't do it. Just focus on living your best life and getting the other admin stuff done. Okay, so that's all my advice for you guys that have just matched, or if you are about to be matching. Let me know what you think of this advice. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Tell me about what you're going to be doing before starting internship in the comments below. And a big congratulations to all of you who have matched. Thank you for watching this video. Give me a thumbs up if you enjoy my content. Subscribe to my channel if you want to hear more from me, various things that I like to talk about, and I will see you guys next time.